Well, today for our daily cancellation, I will tell you that I very nearly had to cancel my wife again. She is, I think, like a 6-time returning champion of the daily cancellation segment, and she almost earned a 7th for her latest infraction. Now, as viewers of the video podcast can see, I am once again today in my home office after the mega winter vortex snow apocalypse dropped like 5 inches of snow in Nashville and shut down all the roads for the next 17 days at least. And nobody plows and nobody treats the roads around here because they always say that, well, we don't have to plow and tree because we never get snow. And I've been hearing that every winter for the last 4 years that I've been here, and every winter we've gotten snow. So I'm starting to think that we get snow. Maybe you should learn how to treat the road. Anyway, so we're stuck here. None of that is my wife's fault. That's not what I'm blaming for. What is her fault is that she apparently put a, we were just talking about pets, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is a framed picture of the cat. It's not my cat. This is my daughter's cat. This is her pet, just to be clear. But this is the framed picture. It's a nice frame. It's not on the bookshelf anymore. She apparently put that on the bookshelf behind me, right in the shot yesterday, and I didn't notice it until after I'd finished recording the show. So any eagle-eyed viewer on Monday could have watched the show and mistakenly come to the conclusion that I'm the sort of man who keeps a framed picture of the cat on his bookshelf. I think the glare from the light might have saved me, so I'm not even sure how visible. So I might just be outing myself for this in a way that I didn't need to. But if someone had seen that, they might have come to the conclusion that I live some sort of double life, like publicly pretending to be relatively normal while privately I'm some sort of cat-obsessed freak. And her plot is made all the more sinister by the fact that, as she well knows, I pay absolutely no attention to any of the decor in any room that I'm sitting in. I mean, she could have removed the bookshelves behind me entirely and replaced them with like a 900-pound giant cat sculpture, and I probably would not have noticed. Like, it would have taken me a few minutes at least. It's only by the grace of God that I caught the cat picture, though I did so a day late. And all that said, as devastated as I am, and as worried as I am about getting the reputation, an unfair reputation as a cat person, I have to admit it's a pretty decent prank. It will require some retaliation, of course, but I respect it all the same. And for that reason, I'm not going to cancel her today. Also because another group of much, much, much more worthy candidates have revealed themselves. And when I say reveal themselves, I mean it literally. They have, in fact, revealed far too much of themselves. A few days ago, Valley Metro, the public transit agency in Phoenix, played willing host to something called No Pants Light Rail Day. Now, as the name would seem to indicate, No Pants Light Rail Day is a day when people ride the light rail in Phoenix without any pants. The Phoenix New Times advertised the event last week. You can see a screenshot of their article, which I want you to see so that you can make note of the very clear LGBT branding that they're giving this thing, because of course they are. Because of course, if there's an event where people are running around without their clothes on in public, you automatically know that there's some LGBT attachment to this thing. And sure enough, there it is. So here's what the article says. After a 4-year wait, Valley residents have an excuse to take their pants off in public again. Phoenix's No Pants Light Rail Ride returns this weekend for the first time since 2020. As the name of the event implies, it involves locals hopping aboard Valley Metro Rail without any pants, skirts, or shorts. Participants are dressed in underwear, tops, and shoes, though. The infamous event, equal part flash mob and urban prank, is scheduled for Sunday. It's one of Phoenix's unique and cheeky events, earning its underwear-clad participants stares, glares, and smiles from onlookers or fellow light rail passengers. During its original run, it was also quite popular. Phoenix's No Pants Light Rail Ride dates back to 2009, and then there were spin-offs in other cities, and they stopped doing it during the pandemic. So that was at least one positive from that whole experience, and now they're back to it. So, and this is something that apparently happens in cities across the country. Baltimore had its own pantless public transit day on Sunday. So if you were already concerned that the seats on public transportation were covered in a thick coating of the most putrid and potentially infectious germs imaginable, well, this should pretty much confirm those suspicions. But it's all just a prank, we're told. It's a prank, a silly prank. Indecent exposure is okay as long as it's done under the guise of a prank, we're supposed to believe. But if you look at the images from this event, which apologies ahead of time, I'm about to force you to do, you will see that this does not appear to be a band of merry pranksters, but rather a group of exhibitionists and fetishists, as you might expect. So here's, just to demonstrate that, here's some footage taken by local media. Viewer discretion very much advised. Here it is. Now, the good news is that if you were too busy today to eat lunch, well, then I guess I've done you a favor because now you don't have an appetite for it anyway. But as you can see, there were people there were people taking part in this who were in furry costumes, people in fetish gear, people there clearly not as a prank, but because they enjoy exposing themselves in public. Exposing themselves to who? Well, I can tell you that there were children in attendance. And when I say in attendance, at the very least, they were on public transportation that day, presumably with their parents. Whether their parents brought them for this event, I don't know. But there were children there, as you can see here. At least 2 young children were on the light rail car, standing next to a guy with no pants, wearing high heels and leather underwear with the word fetish written on the front. And this was allowed to happen out in the open on public transportation, while the city of Phoenix, to my knowledge, has never said a word against it or made any attempt to stop people from taking off their pants in front of toddlers on the light rail. It's not like they didn't know it was happening. It's announced and advertised ahead of time. You could speak up and say, no, you're not allowed to ride public transportation without pants on. You could have said that, and they didn't. Now, needless to say, in a sane country, all of the adults involved would be in jail for, at a minimum, indecent exposure. But just as needless to say, we don't live in a sane country, so none of these adults will face any consequences for this disgusting degeneracy at all. And perhaps worst of all, even if they will not experience any legal penalty, as they should, they also will not feel shame. And that is the big takeaway from really everything that happens in our culture these days, but especially from a nationwide event that involves fetishists riding public transportation in their underwear. Not to be mistaken with cracked out homeless people that ride in their underwear every day for other reasons, or maybe for the same reasons, I don't know. But the big takeaway is that this can only happen and will inevitably happen in a culture without shame. And we've worked very hard to remove shame from our society. We have declared that shaming is a universal evil. It's the worst thing you can do is to shame someone. We've decided that being unashamed is a universal good. And all of that is very wrong because shame serves a critical role for human beings. It's not very dissimilar from the role of the pain receptors in your brain. Without the ability to feel pain, you'd be able to keep your hand on a hot stove without knowing that you're burning yourself. And this will be very bad because although you don't feel any pain from the burn, you are still being burned. Your body is being damaged. The pain is meant to alert you to that fact so that you can protect yourself. Pain is unpleasant to feel, but the alternative is much worse. It's also, it's just like it's unpleasant to hear smoke detectors blaring. Nobody wants to hear that. But it's even worse and even more unpleasant to not know that a fire has started in your kitchen until it's too late. So shame is the same idea. It is the unpleasant feeling you get when you have behaved in a way that is disgraceful and embarrassing and gross and otherwise loathsome. If you don't have the capacity to feel shame, or if you have trained yourself to ignore the feelings when they come, then you may be spared the immediate unpleasantness of the shameful feelings, but you will be doomed to disgrace and to debase yourself repeatedly until you have obliterated every semblance of your own dignity and self-respect. You may not feel the burn, but you are disfigured by it all the same. Only it's even worse in this case because your disfigurement also contributes to the disfigurement of society. Your shamelessness is like a disease. It spreads, and we're all dragged into it. And before you know it, you're standing pantless on the subway while the rest of us recoil in horror. An eventuality that could have been avoided if you had been shamed in the past and made to feel that shame. But shame itself has been shamed out of society, and now we have a whole lot of shameful behavior without any of the shameful feelings that should go with it. So then it is up to me to say to the pantless riders in Phoenix and everywhere else in the country, you are all canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.